Hello, welcome to RC Video Reviews on Friday, November 24th, day after Thanksgiving. It's Black Friday. What a day. Hopefully you guys were out there flying and enjoying family time and shopping and spending all that money you make out there during the year. This is the time where the holiday season gets started. Black Friday, big day. Lots of sales going on. I know on Discord people are posting stuff. I know I was posting stuff. I posted a lot of stuff on Discord. And anyway, yeah, I can't believe I didn't have anything on the camera for you guys. How about that? It's because we're going to do something a little different tonight. That's why. A little bit of a surprise for you. And that's foreshadowing. Anyway, looks like Hobie was in first, and he says he was in first. Not only was he in first, he was first on the like button. Tim came in second, Dan Griffiths third, Brian Chambers after that, and Fast Freddy, man. Fast Freddy, Fred, dude, you're going to have to change. It's not slow Fred, mid Fred, whatever, dude, but Fast Fred, I'm just not feeling it, dude. Anyway, welcome to the show. I'm glad you guys could make it. Andrew's here. How you doing, Andrew? Ryan says, I'm still waiting for the 60 or 70-inch EF planes to get in stock. I know, man. Black Friday was kind of anticlimactic at Extreme Flight. I was waiting, and I just knew they were going to unload a whole bunch of inventory today. I knew it, and they didn't. I was kind of surprised. The David Knutz from the great state of Texas here. How you doing, David? H-Speed Jeff is in the house. How you doing, Jeff? Representing Canada, the great white north. And let's see. I think that's it. Little one-on-one. Hello, hello, hello. Happy holidays. That's right. Black Friday has put a hurting on the wallet. Hey, man, you work hard. You earn a little bit of a treat from now and then. You know, you take care of the mortgage. You take care of the bills. You take care of the health insurance. You pay the electric and the internet tab. You work for it. You may as well spend a little on yourself. There's nothing wrong with that. Ryan says, I thought the same. I know, man. It was very anticlimactic. I just really thought Extreme Flight would swing for the fences this year. New management and all that stuff. But yeah, I was kind of bummed. Little bummed. Not gonna lie. Mark Drury is here from the UK. How you doing? And Andrew is waiting for his Surface radio to show up for his buggy. Okay. All right, we have, it was quite a week this week in videos. You guys, 6 videos during a holiday week. How about that? And that included cooking. I cooked the turkey and the potato salad, and I actually helped clean up from dinner on Thanksgiving. And on top of that, we did the videos. So we did the Pitts Maiden, and I'm going to tell you guys right now, man, that Pitts is a little sweetheart. That is a little sweetheart of a plane. I like it. A lot of people had a point of view on that Pitts in terms of the center of gravity. And as a result of that, we're going to talk a little bit about it. And I know one of the guys even asked in comments if I could spend a little time talking about flight characteristics with different centers of gravity. And the answer to that question is yes, we are. We're going to talk a little bit about that tonight. I don't want to get into too much detail because every time I get into a highly technical topic like this, I get every NASA rocket scientist on the planet has to chime in. But we're just going to cover some fundamentals on CG and I'll offer my opinion because my opinion is mine. So we'll do that. Anyway, the Pitts Maiden went quite well. That's a nice little airplane. It's just, that was another question, was power. People, I had comments about power. You're not going to like the power. There it is. There's the Pitts landing. I think that was like my first or second landing with that plane. Look at that. Landed like a little buttercup. It got a little sideways, but that's because they're top heavy. Dave was doing the same thing, and Dave can land an airplane. So, but yeah, it's a nice little plane. Power wise, no, it's not like a world beater on power, but it was perfectly adequate for the plane. It's a sport plane. It's not a 3D plane. I tried doing some 3D stuff. It's just not really cut out for that. Unless you do things like really extend throws, maybe put some servo extensions on, maybe extend the surface a little more, maybe beef up the power a little bit. But in the configuration out of the box, I thought it flew just fine. I enjoyed flying it. I had a good time with it. Look at that, 7.5 minutes of flight time. It was good. It's a nice little plane. It's a fun little sport plane, and it does look fantastic in the sky. Something about a biplane. I don't know what it is. They just look cool, man. They're just neat looking to watch. That's all. So I enjoyed the Pitts Maiden. That was nice. Next up, we flew the Futura. So the Futura 80mm jet. That was a nice flying airplane on rails. Dave took a crack at it. We were getting about 3.5 minutes. I think we put up 81 miles per hour was as fast as we saw on that one with the burner. So nice plane. I think that's Dave referred to that one as a pattern plane of jets, and I wouldn't disagree. It felt like it was on rails flying it. So very nice. Looks good. It's a beautiful color scheme and really neat lines on that plane, and it flew great. I mean, you saw the takeoff. There it is. There's the Futura right there, getting ready to take off. So straight takeoff, straight landing, really nice flight characteristics. It's a nice jet. I don't know what else to say about it. I thoroughly enjoyed flying it. And then next up was the Corsair first. Oh, no, wait. We had the F-16 Maiden. That was next. The F-16 Maiden. And same deal. That one, if you guys remember the FMS 64 millimeter, that one did not have a rudder. And as it didn't have a rudder, the problem with that one is when you're going down the runway and you lift off the nose wheel, rather, not the mains, the nose wheel. When you lift that off the ground, you no longer have steering ability without a rudder. So as you go down the runway, that main wheel off the ground, if the wind's blowing, the plane turns into it and there it goes right off the runway and you have no control. That's why the rudder is kind of important. Now, a lot of guys came in and said the best way to fly that plane is by hand launching, and I would agree. I think if you hand launch a 64 millimeter F-16, it'd be fine. And in the air, it flew well. I didn't have any problems in the air, but on the ground, just not fun. But the F-16, the 70 millimeter F-16 with the rudder, that one was beautiful. It went down the runways really straight, landed straight, flew great in the air. 3 minutes, so 3.5 minutes. That's kind of the downside to me on the EDF. So that's more of a standard performance on EDFs like we've come to expect. 3.5, maybe 4 minutes if you milk it a little bit. So that was the F-16 Maiden. Overall, I'd say, nice plane. And then next up was the FMS Corsair. That's the 1400 millimeter Corsair. I did a first look video on that one. That's a really sharp plane. I put it together that night. It is ready to maiden. It's very sharp. I like the flaps. I like the mechanism they put on the flaps, the 3 segments where the gull wing happens. I thought that was kind of cool. The landing gear worked beautifully. It's got nice landing lights on it that are quite bright. It's just a beautiful plane. It looks really good. Another thing I really like about that one is it goes together with screws. So you don't have to glue the stabilizers in. They come out. Just a couple screws, you can take the stabilizers out. And that way, if you need to pack the plane away for whatever reason, you can do that as well. So the Corsair, I'll be looking to maiden that just as soon as I can. And then the last video of the week was the ladies' Amazon gift ideas. So gift ideas for the ladies, for the husbands and boyfriends, or the other way around. If you got a woman in your life that flies RC and you need to get her something, there's some ideas in that video for everybody. So those are all wish list items that I have, and if I didn't own them, I want them. So I thought that was a fun video, and judging by the response and the views, you guys like those shopping videos, man. You're telling me with the view counts. I see it in the view counts what you like and don't like, and I can see that you guys like the shopping videos. Everyone likes to figure out where to spend the money. I know what it is. I'm the crash test dummy. I get to go spend my money and practice with this stuff and see what we like, and then what we don't like doesn't get any airtime. What we do like, it shows up on a video, right? And that's fair. That's fair. That's what the YouTube is about. And then finally, the PilotJam. So it was a busy week, man. Six videos this week. And it was a vacation week, too, So anyway, that's it. I'm going to check comments, and then we'll get rolling here. Let's see. Where do I start here? Remember to smash that like button, says Hobie. Oh, yeah. And speaking of that, Hobie, thanks for the reminder. Hobie's on the like whip. I also want to remind you guys, patreon.com/RC video reviews. I have a tier for $3 a month. If you like to help out, you like the content I produce, you want to see more of it. I do appreciate you patrons that are already and signed up and helping. Thank you very much. And if you'd like to contribute and help me bring more content like this to the channel, feel free to go to patreon.com. Everything I make on patreon.com goes right back into the channel. I always spend it on the channel. So that's that. So thanks for that reminder, Hobie. I appreciate you. And let's see, comment-wise, Black Friday has put a hurting on a wallet. Yeah, we got that. Let's see. My wife put a burden on my wallet. Well, that's the nature of being married. It's called sharing the wealth. Bill is here. How you doing, Bill? Glad you can make it. It's been a while. Glad to see you back again. Fred says, I'm casting my vote for John to make his potato salad for the RCVR Fun Fly. All right. Are we doing that? Are we cooking for the Fun Fly, Fred? All right. That's not a bad idea. Ryan says you should review the pilot pits. The pilot pits, huh? Maybe the pilot RC, maybe. I saw another one too. I was browsing around on Black Friday, and I think I saw one over on Tower Hobbies. They looked like they had a big one, a big Pitts. Bill says, "Boy, the Pitts really pops in the sky." Yeah, it does. The Pitts looks great in the sky. It's just, the thing about the Pitts to me, it's like a comfortable old pair of blue jeans. Even though that was the maiden, I think we flew it 7 or 8 times that day. So I was already, by the end of the day, very familiar with that plane. And it is just like a comfortable old pair of blue jeans. It's subtle, it's easygoing, easy natured, nothing high strung about that plane at all. The only thing that I think people might struggle with a little bit is the landings, where it will get a little sideways because it's top heavy. But I'll tell you guys this, by the end of the fly day, I had figured out how to get that thing to land at about 6 or 7 miles per hour and roll out in about 5 or 6 feet. So really no problem at all to get it really slow. Initial landings, obviously you practice a little bit because you don't want to stall it. But by the end of the day, I was putting that thing down with almost no runway and no rollout. It was pretty cool. Pretty cool little plane. I like it. Jeff said, "I forgot to hit that thumbs up button, but I got to it now." Just remember, Jeff, odd number. Don't do it an even number of times. Freddie gets tripped up on that every now and then. Fred says, "Hope the weather is good so I can go fly something." Yeah, no kidding, man. I was going to go flying today, but the weather was pretty terrible. Ryan says, "All good ideas in the shopping video." I know. There were a lot of fun things in that shopping video. A lot of cool hardware out there, that's for sure. All right, I think we're caught up on the comments, so let's get into some content. The first thing I want to do tonight is I want to spend a little bit of time on CG. We're going to talk a little bit about CG. I'm going to put the comments away because we're not doing that right now. And let me bring up the PowerPoint. There's the PowerPoint. And I realized the other day, I left the Q&A title up there. I'm going to shut that off this time because when we're doing this one, we don't need the Q&A title up there. And I think I'll make this slide just a little bit bigger. Okay. First things first, you guys know I have a college education, and one of the things that you have to do when you cite other work is you have to give credit. So I'm just going to tell you guys right now, I am not creating, there is zero original content here. I did not create any of this content. Every single thing that you're about to see, it's not even plagiarized because I'm not claiming it as mine. I'm just telling you straight up, I took all of it from NASA. And I gave them credit for it. So we're good. From an ethics standpoint, we're good. This is a NASA diagram, as you can see by the logo on the top left, from NASA. So all of you guys that are aeronautical engineers and designers, if you want to argue about this, just do me a favor and go to NASA and argue with them. I'm not going to argue with you. This is just NASA's document. I figured they're probably the world's preeminent authority on aerodynamic engineering, so I'll take their word over just about anybody's. The thing I wanted to cover is in this diagram. If you take a look at the diagram, what you'll notice is that right here in the center, this W represents lift. Some people will say it's center of pressure. Some people say center of lift, but NASA just simplifies it and says this is where the lift occurs, okay? So the W is where the lift occurs. Now, this line right here, DW, is the distance between the center of gravity. Notice the little yellow dot right down here. That's the center of gravity. And this little dashed line represents what's called the moment between the center of gravity and the center of lift. For some reason, my mouse keeps disappearing on me. So, okay, so there's your center of gravity. This line, DW, represents the distance between the center of gravity and the center of lift. And then this line, D1, or DT rather, represents the moment between the tail's lift, center of lift, and the center of lift of the airplane, okay? And in order for the airplane to fly straight and level, DW and DT need to be equal. So when you multiply it out, they have to equal 0, okay? And that results in what's called a trimmed airplane, okay? These are NASA's facts. These are not John's facts, so don't argue with me about it. Don't get in comments and give me an aeronautical lecture about go argue with NASA. Okay, this is NASA's facts. Now, the next page, we're also going to take some facts from NASA, and I can see at the bottom, I have to make an adjustment because I told you guys you got to give credit where credit is due, and this is not my content. So what I notice is that the way I have this graphic structure, there it is. There's the citation. Citation at the bottom. This comes from grc.nasa.gov. This is straight off their webpage. It's not my material. It is a straight copy paste. I didn't manipulate anything here. I may have shortened a few sentences, but that's it. So lift is the sum of all the parts of the airplane and acts through the aircraft's center of pressure. Remember that line in the middle that we talked about? W, that's the center of pressure, okay? So lift is the sum of all lift parts of the plane, including the wing and the tail, and it acts through the aircraft's center of pressure. During maneuvers, the airplane rotates about its center of gravity. That's different than the center of lift, isn't it? So when you rotate the plane, when they say rotate the plane, they're talking about pitch. If you imagine a line drawn through the lateral portion of the wing, that is the lateral axis, right? So it goes across the fuselage, 90 degrees perpendicular to the fuselage. That's your lateral axis. So what they're saying here is that the aircraft will rotate on that axis where the center of gravity exists. So in the case of this plane will rotate about the CG, center of gravity. That's where it rotates. Think about a teeter-totter at the park. That's the fulcrum of the teeter-totter. No, hold on, check that. That's a bad example. Don't check that. We'll save that for later. So center of gravity, that's what they're saying. It rotates. During maneuvers, the airplane rotates about its center of gravity. When there is no rotation about the CG, that means there's no movement. The aircraft is said to be trimmed. Okay, so that's what we look for. Trimmed airplane. That's why we look at the center of gravity and we determine where center of gravity is, because once we figure that out, that's where we have to trim our plane so that it flies straight and level. Now, here's the key part, and this is the next bullet is the big one. This is the whopper, okay? And what it says here is it's desirable for aircraft stability to have the center of pressure aft of the center of gravity. In this diagram, remember center of pressure is W, center of gravity is DW. It's that mark right here, the yellow mark. And they're showing you, for the purposes of stability, it's important for the center of pressure to occur aft of the center of gravity, okay? And the reason they do that is because it's more efficient that way, highly efficient. Although I will tell you, very fast moving planes, jets, airliners, for example, they will tend to put the CG very, very close to the center of pressure because that makes the plane the most efficient, which means it flies on the wing. That's the point. It flies on the wing. If you have that center of gravity down low, down way up in front of the center of lift, what happens is, well, let's see. Let's finish the bullets first, then we'll talk about it. So airliners, for example, they will keep the center of gravity. They try and keep it close to the center of lift because that results in the most aerodynamically efficient angle of attack of the aircraft. And that makes fuel consumption the smallest it can be, right? It makes it the most efficient, which is super important if you're doing things like operating an airliner. The center of pressure for the tail is always aft of the center of gravity. That's kind of a key point. And I'm going to talk a little bit about what happens if the center of gravity is aft of the center of lift. We'll talk about that in just a minute. And a positive lift force from the tail produces a counterclockwise rotation. So what they're saying is that when you have a positive lifting force on the tail, that rotates this aircraft counterclockwise. In other words, nose down. So that's when you're creating more lift with the tail. Okay. Now, with all that out of the way, let's talk about a couple of characteristics that matter. So if you have a very nose-heavy plane, meaning that center of gravity is quite far in front of that center of lift, what winds up happening, remember what we said, is that when the farther that center of gravity is around the center, the farther the center of gravity is in front of the center of lift, the more nose-heavy the aircraft is, and it rotates around that counterclockwise. It rotates counterclockwise. So if you have a very nose-heavy aircraft, that nose tends to pitch down, and the way you counter that is by pulling back on the elevator, right? Because that will help you increase tail lift, and it'll get you in that trim condition, which means your force from DW and DT are equal, right? Now, the problem with that, of course, is that the more you pull back on that stick, the more that elevator goes up, the more drag you incur, which means you're less efficient. That's why having the center of gravity near that center of lift results in a tail surface that's nearly flat, and that's more efficient. It's more aerodynamically streamlined. Now, I want to talk a little bit about what happens if you have the CG aft of your center of pressure. That results in an unstable aircraft, and here's why. Remember we talked about the idea that the aircraft rotates around its center of gravity, right? Let's look at the bullet again so we can see that. During maneuvers, the airplane, second bullet down, during maneuvers, the airplane rotates about the center of gravity. Okay, if that center of gravity is aft of your center of lift or the center of pressure, what'll wind up happening is you will wind up having to push nose down. You have to push that nose down because it's the center of gravity, the lift of the airplane is pulling it up past that center of gravity. So you have to counter that by pushing down and pushing down and pushing down. There comes a point when if you lose the ability to push down any further, your tail surface can actually stall. And when that happens, the next thing that follows is a wing stall, and you can't recover from that. So that's why it results in a degree of instability, and also it's inefficient because you don't have a streamlined control surface, right? It's not flat and in line with the horizontal stabilizer. So that's what we call dirty. It's a dirty configuration, and it's less efficient than if that horizontal stabilizer is parallel with the elevator, right? Or not parallel, in line. The elevator has to be in line with that horizontal stabilizer. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the flight characteristics. So now that we got our physics lessons in aircraft, let's talk about the characteristics. When you're nose heavy, that means your CG is quite far in front of your center of lift. What winds up happening is the airplane feels heavy. It feels heavy on the sticks. It's not really crisp. It's kind of like driving without power steering. You know, it's just heavy. If the sticks feel kind of heavy, the plane doesn't react. It's not real sharp. The other thing is that it'll fly fast, right? It wants to fly fast, and it'll land fast. So when you're flying nose heavy, those are all characteristics that you'll encounter. However, keep in mind that there's a rule of thumb out there that says if you're nose heavy, you fly poorly. If you're tail heavy, you fly once. So nose heavy is survivable because the airplane never gets really uncontrollable, but it's going to land fast. It's going to feel heavy. It's going to feel sloppy. It's not going to feel crisp. It's not efficient. You don't have all that authority in your elevator anymore because you're using some of it to keep the nose up, right? Those are all conditions that go around the very heavy center of gravity. A nose heavy center of gravity. So your center of gravity is way too far in front of that center of lift. Now, if you are flying with a severely tail-heavy plane, what happens is you become unstable for a different reason, and that's because you lose that lifting authority of your tail, which makes it less stable. And like I said, if you exceed the lift ability of the tail in order to keep that nose down, you wind up stalling the tail. And if you do that, the wing is next, and then you crash. That's why they say poorly tail-heavy planes fly once, right? Because if you're in that situation where you no longer have the authority in the tail, you don't have the torque ability or the moment between the tail and the center of gravity to lift the plane, then you're going to crash. That's the problem. And now that said, you can fly slightly tail heavy with some of the planes like the 3D planes because they have these great big elevators. They have these great big control surfaces. So you do create a lot more lift with a 3D plane because you have these massive tail surfaces. So some people, I'm not saying me, I'm just saying some people will say when it comes to flying tail heavy on 3D planes, they like that better. And part of the reason I think for that is because if it's tail heavy, it might tend to do things like hover easier or enter into maneuvers easier, like pinwheels, like pop tops, crankshafts, waterfalls, that kind of thing. It might enter those maneuvers faster. Again, I don't really have a real strong point of view on this, but so I just kind of stay out of that one. I don't really have an opinion on that one yet. I haven't developed enough skill in 3D to say that I have an opinion about that yet. So the reason I went through all this I think that wraps up the nose heavy, tail heavy. Tail heavy, it's going to be a little unstable. It's going to be a real challenge to land. They do not like to land when they're doing that because they want to fly nose up. So when you're landing, it's kind of counterintuitive because you really have to force the nose down. They do feel more crisp. I'll give it that. They tend to feel a little bit more crisp in the air, but you can have the same counterproductive action. So if you have it too tail heavy, you could be taking away from your elevator authority because you're holding a lot of nose down, for example. And then, of course, you have the concept that, it's easy to crash because if you stall the tail, you don't have any control over keeping that center of gravity that moment lined up with the center of lift so that you are trimmed. You can't find that neutral point where everything's equal so that the plane flies around that center of lift, right? That's the problem. So, okay, those are the characteristics that you experience. Another thing I want to say about it is that you guys have watched my videos enough to know when I do my maidens, I do that 45-degree upline test. And one of the things I'm looking for there is when we put in that 45-degree upline, if you have a relatively neutral plane, so your center of gravity is kind of close to that center of lift, what that means is you're not going to have a lot of trim one way or the other on the elevator, right? Because remember what they say in the book here, when there is no rotation about the CG, the aircraft is said to be trimmed. Okay, so if you have to trim the airplane using your elevator one direction or another, what happens is, let's say you're climbing let's say you have to use up elevator trim in order to maintain straight and level. When you go inverted, that now becomes down elevator, right? So now that's when the nose will arc down to the ground. That's why it's an indicator that your nose heavy. That's why we do that 45-degree upline test. Because if we have a bunch of up elevator and then we roll the plane over and go inverted, that up elevator now becomes down elevator and you'll see it arc down toward the ground. If you have a fairly neutral center of gravity, and meaning it's very close to your center of lift, that means you're not going to have a lot of trim on the elevator, which means when you roll it over, if you have a symmetrical wing, it should fly in a similar fashion. Asymmetrical wings will not. They will also roll down to the ground. Those are jets and trainers and stuff like that. So just keep that in mind. Whether or not your wing is symmetrical, that has something to do with it. So that's why we do the test. Now, I know some people will argue and say, well, that test doesn't prove anything for me. I've heard it. What I can say, here's what I would say about it. This is all relative. So if that test doesn't get you the stability that you desire, then you'll have to come up with a different test. What I can say is that when I fly a 3D plane and I'm fairly neutral on that upline, for me, I enjoy those flight characteristics on the plane. So therefore the test is valid for me. For you, it might be a little bit of a different story, right? You might say, I want it to be more tail heavy. If that's the case, that upline test isn't going to work for you. You're going to have to find some other way to test things, if that makes sense. Okay, so that's it. I just wanted to spend a little time on the nose heavy versus tail heavy because it's a conversation that came up. You know, I was asked the question. I thought it was a decent question. You know, I think it was an honest question. And I just thought I'd spend a little bit of time talking about the mechanics of it because these are my experiences, right? And to me, it's not really debatable because everything that I said tonight is kind of how I experience RC flying. That's just the way it works for me. And again, those are NASA's points, not mine, right? So if you want to argue about these bullets, just do me a favor and head on over to NASA and let them know what you think because I'm going to trust NASA over anybody else. Okay. So that's that. Now we can put the, I'll go ahead and put the questions up, although we're not going to be on the questions just yet, but I'll go ahead and put them up. And then there we go. So that's it for that. Now we can move on to the next segment. So I'm going to check comments first before I move on though. Let's see. I just got a tiny hoot's going on here. Appreciate the wave, Fast Freddy. I'm just checking comments here. 20 likes, 30 watching. Yeah, hit the like button. That'd be great. At least half of you haven't hit the like button yet. Props off says, John, I shared your channel to a heli guy. Best radio master info on you. I appreciate that. Props off. Thank you very much, man. Appreciate the wave, Fast Freddy. Yeah, Fast Freddy's always fun, man. Fred's fun to fly with. He's a great guy. Need more quad and FPV videos, says Hobie. Quad and FPV videos. You know, Hobie, they just don't get the hits on this channel, man. That's why I don't do them. I kind of follow the stats, you know. Got to do what the viewers want. Just got a tiny Sima X20 today. I'm all in now. Very good. All right. Had a good Thanksgiving. My family is ill. Oh no. And had it just to keep it to us, all the food you can eat though. Very good. Black Friday deals. All right. Let's see. I'm no stranger to quads. Hope this isn't a prelude to the Corsair. Nah, I don't think so, Robert. Let's see. Had to get some okay. Comments. No questions. Okay. Hobie says, I'm really looking forward to the Corsair Maiden that should have happened today. Yeah, I know, but I no one to film and the weather was terrible. Sorry, man. Couldn't make it happen. We'll try. We'll get it done soon. Okay. I just see a lot of chit chat. I don't see anything for me to answer, so I'm going to move on. Okay. T-Motor Black Friday. I wanted to share this one with you because The guys on Discord have seen it already, and I haven't gotten permission yet, but I asked T-Motor. So we're going to get a world exclusive with T-Motor. And in the interim, so the guys on Discord have seen it. They've seen a picture of it. They know what it is. But I did want to show you guys something real quick on T-Motor. They asked me if I could do a quick video for them. And I said, yes, I'd be happy to, but I asked for permission to show the world exclusive thing during the video. And they didn't reply yet, so I'm kind of holding off. But I did want to give you guys a look at their website because they're doing some stuff, man. I found for my next airframe that is actually inbound, I'm going to be using an ESC. I used a fixed wing ESC. I use this one, the AM116. Look at that. The list price on this one is $149. They're selling it for $119 shipped. And that's what I paid. I paid $119 shipped for that ESC. So the T-Motor AM116, $119. I want to show you another thing on here too. Check this out. You got the AM670. This is good for 67-inch planes. $113 shipped off. It's 100 off of 141. That's a nice sale. I like that one. And they've got others in here too. They have the 480 if you want for a smaller plane. They've got the AM600. This is great for 60-inch planes. And that's on sale for $103 against $129. And they've got a couple of KV options. And look, it's all in stock. So you got a couple of days on this one, but make sure you check out the T-Motor website, man, because they're doing some stuff. And I wonder if they have, did they finally put the fixed wing carbon? Did they finally put those on? Yes, they did. Well, they got some of them. There's a 10x3, an 18x8, 80/40, a 17-inch. They don't have them all, unfortunately, but there's an 18.8. That's an 18.8 carbon fiber prop for $40, man. That's pretty cheap. And those are really nice props. They're really, really nice props. I love those T-Motor carbon fiber props. So I just wanted to point this out. I'm not going to do this for all the vendors, but T-Motor, they've been very good at the channel. They specifically asked if I could maybe make an announcement about their Black Friday sale. So I said, yes, I would. And I just wanted to share it with you guys. So make sure you check out their site. I can tell you the motors that I've had so far, like the AM, I've flown a couple of quad motors too, but the AM670 is really good. And the AM600 is really good. And in terms of the world exclusive, I'm not going to show it tonight, but I'm going to tell you it's an AM780. I have it. It's an AM780, which is really cool. That's a 40cc motor. I can't wait to try it out. It's like not out there yet, but I'll be doing a video on that soon. Be on the lookout for that. That'll be coming up real soon. So the AM780, yep, that's pretty cool. So be on the lookout for the AM780 video, and then check out T-Motor's website. They're running a nice sale, man. They've got a lot of, and they're it's good quality stuff. I like it. All right, that's it for the T-Motor thing. That's a public service Black Friday announcement for you guys, just to let you know what's going on. All right, digital microscope. Time to have a little bit of fun. We're going to go into this guy and check this out. I told you guys I was going to do this, and I knew it was going to eventually happen. I was so excited when I got it worked out. Hopefully, I'm waiting to see in the live feed. I want to make sure you guys can see it. I think you should be able to see it okay. But I wanted to give you guys a look at just how convenient this little digital microscope is. And I told you I'd be bringing this in. So all I did was I just took a little, I've been taking equipment out of my stash and looking it over. And I'm just trying to get an idea of the quality of the flow and the components on these devices. Now, I'm not an electrician, but I can spot bad. I can see something that's not done right. So if we look at all these parts, you know what? I'm going to bring it down lower, because that's another thing this does. I can lower the lens a little bit, and that gives us a little bit more of a close up. So there we go. That's even closer. So check that out, man. Digital microscope. And what I really like about this, I'll show you in just a minute what I like about it for my personal use, is that you can really get a look at electronics before you put them on your plane to see if there's anything obvious to you that doesn't look right or that needs correction. So one of the things I'll tell you guys is that I was asked if I had soldered with the digital microscope yet, and I said I had not. And I tried it, and I posted a little video on Discord of me actually soldering with the digital microscope. And it's a little bit of a different experience. I will admit that. It is definitely different, but it's really, really handy to be able to look at your work and see how you did. So all of those little blobs, that's all John. John did all that. Let's see how it looks on this side. I got a couple little spikes at the end, but that's fine. It's like the solder is okay. And then you can, oh, let's see what's going on the bottom here. There you go. You can check your work. And what I find so fascinating about this is that if you guys are doing this kind of work, you know what I'm talking about. You want to be able to check and look and see if you have any shorts. You know, this is a really nice tool to be able to do that. So a little digital microscope, and you can see what's going on with your soldering work. So that's pretty cool. And then this is an EPW6. So we can, I got to focus this one a little bit. There we go. There's the focus. So again, we can take a look at these. This is a receiver. And what I love about it is I'm going to look it over before I put it in a plane. It just takes a minute. I can turn this digital microscope on and check the soldering work and make sure everything's where it looks like it's supposed to be. Like, look at, can I get my finger in there where it's supposed to go? Right there. You see that? It looks okay. I don't see a problem. Look at this little guy right next to it. Right there. You see that little black one? That looks a little crooked, but it looks like it's soldered. So I don't think it's a problem. I think it's just a really neat thing to be able to look at this stuff. I'll have to zoom. I'll have to change my focus again because it's a little closer than it was before. And you can check your own work too. So digital microscopes. I'm telling you, man, I've been thinking about one of these for quite a while. And when I got a chance to review one for the channel, they covered the expense on it. So I was really kind of happy about that. So now I can see, what the heck is that? Look at that right there on that chip. I don't know what that is. I don't know. That just looks like, I don't know what, it almost looks like a chip in the chip, doesn't it? Doesn't look like the silicone is defective. I love this thing, man. It's cool. And then I had the grandkids over and we put coins on there and we put a couple other things on there just to give them a look at what was going on. So that's why I brought a couple electronic boards out. I told you guys on the channel, now that I have this and it's got the HDMI out, I told you I'd have the ability to actually put this kind of stuff on the channel and give you guys a look. So as we go forward with the channel, RC Video Reviews, I'll have the ability to take a much closer look at electronics. You know, so if I get a new radio, for example, I'll pop the case open, we'll put it on the digital microscope and take a really close look. I think it's really kind of cool. I think it's neat. I think it's a neat capability to have. It's fun. And you can use it obviously for so much more. So if you have hobbies outside of radio control, biologics, bugs, butterflies, leaves, rocks, whatever, you want to do a COVID inspection on your spouse, go ahead and take a sample and put it under there and look for yourself, right? Yeah, I've got grands, two of them. You didn't know? I've got 2 grands. They were over for Thanksgiving and we got to play with the microscope a little bit. They thought it was cute. The girls thought it was cute to put their fingers under there and check their fingerprints. They thought that was neat. So there you go. Digital microscope. Check it out, man. It's a fun little tool to have. All right, next up is Q&A. So we will go back. I'm checking the comments here. Let's see. Before I go on to Q&A. Let's see. I have T-motors on some of my quads. Yeah, T-motors make really good. They make really good ones. RBB says 45. Okay, I don't know what that means. I don't know what the reference is. T-Motor F55A Pro 2 ESC is money, says props off. I believe it. T-Motor does make good gear. They've got a lot of experience in the quad space. Oh, and by the way, the reason I got the AM116, it's going to go with that. It's going to go with the next model that I'm building. And the reason for that is because of BL Heli 32 and D-Shot. So if that's any tip, I won't tell any more, but if that's a tip, it's for BL Heli and D-Shot. Is that gray hair on a bridge on the solder? Yeah, it probably is, Robert. Good eye. Yeah, I'm sure it is gray hair. I earned it, though. Pretty nice job, John, says Robert. Thank you. I appreciate you. Appreciate you. Not bad. Yeah, it's fun. And it also gives you an opportunity to improve on your soldering, too, because if you can't see it, right, it's hard to see what you did wrong. And once you can see it that close, you can see, you know, like it uncovers the truth. Crystal clear image, says Bill. Yeah, you're welcome. Jeff says, John, did you try to fix the caps on? No, Jeff, that surface flow stuff, man, my hand is not steady enough for that. I don't have a hot gun to do that kind of work. And, you know, for the $8 that those cost, I would really rather not mess with the receiver. I'd rather just put it in a pair of vice grips and crush it and throw it in the trash and just put another one in. I don't mess around when it comes to receivers, man. I don't play games with receivers. If they're not right, I don't want them. Props Off says bug eyeballs are the best. My son likes scary bugs. Yeah, I bet. Splinters. That's funny you mentioned that, Four Eyes. The girls, when they put their hands under the microscope, that's one of the first things I saw was a little splinter. I even asked my daughter, hey, why is there a splinter in there? Get that out of there. I did actually mention that. That's funny you say that. David says, Wade, I still remember seeing your daughter asking to play with the vet car. Yeah. Well, that was from way back, man. And she's also my youngest daughter, not my oldest daughter. Remember, I have 5 kids. All right. David says, how long have I been watching you? Yeah, quite a while, David. You're one of the old timers. David is one of the blue bloods on the channel. If you guys didn't know, he was probably one of the first 300. He's been around for a while. So is Hobie. Yeah, Hobie's been around for a while now too. You guys, yeah, some of you guys getting long in the tooth on the channel. That's right. And I appreciate it too. I appreciate every one of you. All right. It's been great making the friends on the channel. It really has. You guys have been amazing. All right. Let's take a look at Q&A. So I have some good Q&A stuff. And the first one is not really as much of a question as it is a comment on the I wish my wife bought me video. Doug Diamond says, if a wife or partner buys you thing to get you out of the house more often, they're up to no good. I thought that was fun. I said, that's why I tossed in a digital microscope. It's a test. So we'll see if they just get you the stuff that gets you out of the house or something that keeps you busy. If it's just to keep you busy, then you're okay. If it's to get you out of the house, then Doug's probably right. You better be on high alert. They want you gone. They're up to no good. That's pretty funny. I got a chuckle out of that, Doug. Thanks for the laugh, man. Laura Har says, what a great idea. Now get the wives to watch this video. That's the point. That's what I was thinking. You guys gotta get the wives, say, hey, honey, watch this video from John. I like the third one. you gotta give them the opportunity to look. That was the whole point. So Laura, right on it, Laura. Got to get the wives to watch the video. I even put ladies in the title. And then I'm not even going to say what happened on Discord. One of the guys, I will say what happened. One of the guys came in and said, after I watched that video, John, thanks a lot, because then he showed a little hottie in his feed showed up next. So he was happy that he got a little eye candy in his live stream on YouTube, on his feed on YouTube. Yeah, Robert, you've been around. Yeah, Robert's been around for a while too. 3,000 subs. That's right. Props Off says, John, I think it's a good idea to do a little FPV to attract people like me. And I'm obviously hooked now. I know. I've done, man, the whole channel started with FPV. I did FPV a lot before I came back to Florida and started doing mostly line of sight and helicopters. But yeah, I used to do a lot of FPV, almost all of it. All right, next up, let's see. Why is that sideways? What the heck just happened here? Oh, man. What the heck is going on here? There's Laura's comment. Okay. Number 3, Epic Powered RC says, very nice. You proved what I always knew could be. Never understand why they said 12S for 70-inch planes. I had a 74-inch 12S plane once, and on 13S, it was way overpowered. Okay. 13S, how do you do that? Is he putting a... Was he doing a 7S and a 6S, I guess? I always wanted to try 6 or 8S, but it was an older plane and kind of heavy. That's a great color scheme. Nice flight. Yeah. I think the Slick is just kind of a little bit more mellow than the hyper 3D stuff, but it's beautiful. It's a beautiful flyer. It is a great color scheme. And I love that plane. I thoroughly enjoyed it so far. So that's definitely one of the keepers that'll be around in the hangar for quite a while. And I'm glad that putting the content out there, and I'll just say, guys, that my channel is about video evidence. So I put it on the video and you see it. The bottom line is that you see that it can fly okay with success. It's not a conversation, right? I'm just showing you, here's what it does. So that's the thing that I like about this comment, is he caught on to the fact that, hey, thanks for showing, instead of just talking, instead of flapping the gam, you showed. And that's the important thing. So I appreciate that. All right, RC Rotor Freak says, he's talking about the Corsair. Here's a little bit of a theme that's going on in some of the comments that I shared this week too, that I thought I would share with you guys. RC Rotor Freak says, wow, that's actually my favorite plane. What got me into the Corsair, this is the cool part, is when my dad bought me a Cox 049 Corsair Yuki. I loved how it looked, and the bent wing. Bent wing is sexy. I was probably 8. Now I'm 41. Later on in my youth, I found out much more and reason why it was bent, which is due to the overpowered engine needing a longer prop. Yep, they had to clear the prop from the deck. That's exactly correct. It needs clearance so the prop doesn't hit the ground, so they bent it. They gave it the gull wing. One of the movies I really like to have the Corsair is a movie that came out last year, Devotion. I'm a little annoyed that I don't know what that movie is, but I'm going to go look that up. Great movie. I love the World War II so much. Beautiful aircraft in that era. Yes, I agree. And this is one of the themes I saw in some of the comments, is that a little bit of nostalgia. And I think that's got to be part of the fun of the hobby, right? Because for some reason, so many of us are attracted to the warbirds. I don't know if we romanticize them or if we honor them, or maybe some mix of the two. But yeah, a lot of nostalgia in this hobby, to be sure. So I just enjoyed the comment. It was a nice comment. RBB says, with planes that output power, do you set 250 milliwatts? With planes, what output power do you set at 250 milliwatts, and with what refresh rate? So simple answer to that is, when it comes to Express LRS, I usually set the output power to the max and use dynamic. And the reason I do that is because the radio will determine the correct power output. In other words, it will use the minimum power level necessary to do the job. And when it sees a scenario where, hey, this is not good, it will raise the output power level. And that's important. That's really in line with the theory of correct RF usage. And so that's why I do it. And then what refresh rate? Generally, when it comes to fixed wing, I pretty much these days always use 333 hertz and 16 divided by 2, which means I get 16 proportional channels at 166 hertz, which is basically faster than just about everything else on the market today. So 166 hertz is 333 at 16 divided by 2. So that's what I do. I set it to max output, dynamic power, 333, 16 divided by 2. That pretty much turns every Express LRS receiver into a straight 16 channel receiver. All right, Ryan says, John, do you think T-Motor 780 to be too much in the 70-inch slick? Yeah, oh yeah, definitely. It's a 78-inch. It's for a 78-inch plane. It's a 40cc. Yeah, that's too much for the slick. I wouldn't do that, because then it'd be a conversion to 12S and a much bigger prop. Yeah, that'd be too much. I wouldn't do it in that one. 35cc. If I were going to do something bigger in the slick, I would look at a 30cc, 35cc. Robert says, where I grew up in California, Baba Black Sheep was filmed about 20 miles from my place in a town called Indian Dunes. I watched them fly the Corsairs over a lot. That's cool, man. Corsair. Ryan, you can never have too much. Yeah, well, here's the thing, Hobie. When you guys do, I have a video on the channel. It's called Designing Electric Power Systems for RC Planes, and it all starts with the prop. So just keep that in mind. If you put too much of a motor in, you have to swing a bigger prop, because the KV is going to be really low. So you put in a great big prop, and you have to be able to clear the ground. So keep that in mind. Believe it or not, if I'm doing scratch built design for an electric system, I actually start with the prop first, and I work my way backwards from there into the motor, then the ESC, and then finally the battery. And the battery, the motor kind of determines the battery a little bit too. Not in the sense of voltage, but in the sense of speed and RPM. So just keep that in mind. That's how I do it. So check the channel, Designing Electric Power Systems for RC Planes. All right, back to the Q&A. Only a couple of these tonight. I think it's L stripes, or it's just bracket stripes. Okay. After 13 years, see, and this is another one of those nostalgia deals. After 13 years and coming back to RC, I can finally live my dreams of owning an FMS Warbird or 2 or 3. It's a shame they stopped making the Spitfire. They now do rotations on what they sell and make. So again, this is that nostalgia thing, and I really appreciate it, because I got to tell you, when I get some of these planes, I reflect back. How many times have you guys heard me say I love the F-16 because it was the first plane I got? Right? The Corsair. I remember Baba Black Sheep, Robert Conrad. I used to watch that show when I was a kid, and I loved it. I thought he was like a superhero to me. I just thought it was really cool. So yeah, definitely some nostalgia. So I appreciate this comment too, Stripes. Welcome back to the hobby, by the way. All right, the last question, I think it's Dirt Oval Racer. How do you know when there's enough? Oh, he's referring to my battery bank. How do you know when there's enough capacity in a battery bank to put whatever battery you discharge into the bank? Does the charger stop when it can't put any more juice in, or do you have to put a voltmeter on the battery? Okay, so just to be clear, if I'm discharging into my LifePo batteries, they have a self-contained BMS, which means what happens is if you were to start a regen discharge and put too much energy back into the battery, the BMS will disconnect itself from the circuit. It'll create an open circuit, so the regen will fail. So that's how I do it on my battery bank. You don't have to worry about a voltmeter at all because they have a BMS, and the BMS will actually open the circuit and disconnect the battery from the circuit. Now, if the other thing about it is that if I take, to keep it simple, let's just pretend, for example, I brought 3 batteries to the field with me and my battery bank. When I get to the field, if I take those 3 batteries and plug them in and charge them, I've taken a certain amount of energy out of my battery bank. I can easily put that energy back into my battery bank. So as long as we don't introduce somebody else's battery into the equation, or we don't start with batteries that are already charged and my battery bank being already charged, the algebra kind of works out that says, if I start with my battery bank fully charged and my flight packs at storage, then anything that as long as I'm using just my batteries, anything that I want, I can dump back into the battery bank because that energy came from the battery bank in the first place. So that's the reason. So those are the 2 answers I'd have on that, is that it's kind of like the water in the buckets game, right? You start out with so much water, you drain it into more buckets. You can always put that water back in the first bucket. That's kind of the answer. If there's another battery involved, like say Shane shows up and wants to do a regen into my battery bank, and that would put me over voltage, then I rely on the BMS. But it's a good question to make sure you understand that, because you do not want to overcharge the input source. That's the key. That's the key. All right, so let's see. I'm checking comments. Let's see. Ryan, you said too much. Top Gun was filmed on the Enterprise where I was stationed on. Oh, wow, that's cool. Four Eyes was on the Enterprise when Top Gun was. Now you're dating yourself, man. You just gave your age. Let's see. When was that? 1986. So that means you were at least 18 in 86. So you can do the math back to 66, 68, somewhere in there, maybe. Let's see. Drone Pilot, gents, how we doing? Hobie says Elias made it. Yeah, how you doing, Elias? Glad you can make it. Robert's taking off, going back to work. Sorry about that, Robert. Have a good time. Don't work too hard, man. And that's it. No more other comments. Okay. So that is it for Q&A, and we will go back to the desktop, and we're hitting up on the last segment, which is coming up. Okay, coming up. I guess I have to tell you guys that I have I got to be careful here because I don't want to give up too much information, but I've got a world first coming with T-Motor, and I've got another world first coming that I can't talk about yet, but the airframe for that is on the way. So hang tight for that. I got stuff inbound. We're going to be doing another world first. So more on that to come. In fact, that airframe arrives tomorrow. Tomorrow it'll be here. So be on the lookout. I'll definitely be doing a video on that. And obviously, I'm going to try and do a T-Motor look at the 780. I want to do a first look on that. Although, in the spirit of full disclosure, for you guys that hang out on the Pilot Jam, because this is where the cool kids hang out, the airframe for that one is not in stock at Extreme Flight. I'm waiting for that one to pop back in stock, and the second it does, I'll jump on it. But it's not in stock right now, so I'm in a holding pattern. I just have to wait. That's all I can do. So, and then of course we've got the Corsair Maiden. So those are the 3 things I've got on the radar right now. We've got the T-Motor first look video on the 780, which will also get a little bit of a Black Friday ad. We've got the inbound airframe and that world first on that's coming up. That won't be immediate. That'll be in the next couple of weeks, week or 2, depends. We'll see. I'm waiting for hardware, so that'll be coming up. And then the Corsair Maiden. Those are the next things on the agenda. So that's it in terms of what's coming. And I'm looking at questions, and I don't see anything else I have to cover. So that's it for the Pilot Jam, guys. That is the material top to bottom, and we are just shy of an hour, just underneath an hour. That's an hour straight. I hope you guys enjoyed the Pilot Jam. I hope you've had a lovely Thanksgiving weekend. I hope you're definitely getting out there and flying. I know I will try and fly tomorrow if the weather permits. Today it did not. It was rainy and nasty, so I couldn't fly today. I was kind of bummed about that. But if I can fly tomorrow, I will. And that's all I've got for tonight. If you like this kind of content, make sure you smash that thumbs up button, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. Don't forget about patreon.com/RC Video Reviews. $3 a month if you want to help out. Help me run the channel. Help me bring content into the channel. It all helps. It all goes back into the channel too. So that's all I've got, guys. I hope you have a fantastic evening and a fantastic weekend. Thanks for joining me. Get out there and fly something.